in liberal media, even when Christians are the ones being murdered, the Christians have to be the bad guy in the story. And just so we're clear, a drag queen is a grown man wearing women's clothes, and they want to be seen by children as much as possible. That's obviously depraved. The actual cause is spiritual. Every time we see someone take as many lives as possible for taking his or her own life, we're seeing the exact spirit of Satan at work that was at work in Scripture. We're seeing somebody who was possessed by evil itself. I want to begin by expressing heartfelt condolences to those who have lost loved ones in Nashville. There's no greater pain in this life, particularly for parents who have lost children. We have literally wept as you have wept. We've mourned as you've mourned. You are loved. You are prayed for all the way out here near Seattle, Washington. We don't yet know much of the shooter's motive. There was a plan allegedly to go and kill her parents and then also go to a mall. And we know that the targets at this point have been described as random. I've heard it as well speculated that possibly one of the targets was intentional. But what we do know is that our press got it right and then got it wrong. The Associated Press accurately stated that the shooter was a female. And then we all saw them shift. We all saw them change their tune. Even the New York Times released an article describing how rare it is for there to be a female mass shooter. In just a second, we're going to look at this LA Times article that also weighs in on the matter right after everything took place. So the word on mass shooters used to be they were all white males. Then in 2006, that began to change. And then in recent years, we've seen it shift even more. We've seen female mass shooters. The percentage of our population who identifies as transgender, statistically speaking, is so small that the odds arithmetically of one of them, of a mass shooter being transgender, are nil, but we've actually seen 2 so far. This brings into the forefront of the discussion an element of hypocrisy within the liberal media's narrative. If trans men are men, why didn't the articles and the headlines say another white male goes on a shooting spree? It didn't say that because this time the shooter was transgender. And so for that reason, they can't defy the narrative. They can never demonize, as it were, a transgender person. But this was obviously demonic. We've seen reports as well of discussions in chat rooms saying this is what happens when you're transphobic. We've seen even somebody removed from a prominent position of a staff advisor to an official in Arizona for posting a meme of somebody holding guns out and saying, this is what we do when we see transphobes. That's utterly unacceptable. That's absolutely horrific. But I want to speak directly to another element in all of this that is prevalent throughout liberal media. In liberal media, even when Christians are the ones being murdered, the Christians have to be the bad guy in the story. This was released by the Los Angeles Times shortly after the shooting. We're a country that purports to care about human life, yet we tolerate frequent mass casualties from guns. Literally name one person who tolerates all of this. While conservative legislators in Tennessee and other states spend their time trying to ban books or drag queens, okay, they're going after Tennessee, where the shooting took place, for banning drag queens. They're trying to say that they're off task, but the implication is also very clear, as if their banning of drag queens is what drove this shooter to do this, as if now shooters hold the world hostage until their whims are met, as if we are no longer to do what is morally right because we have guns held to us. And just so we're clear, a drag queen is a grown man wearing women's clothes, and they want to be seen by children as much as possible. That's obviously depraved, okay? And I'm looking at you, makers of Hocus Pocus 2. Why do grown men want to be seen by children while dressed as women? I'll make the argument that curtailing this is actually addressing the spiritual issue that led to the very depravity that is on full display even in this story. Curtail gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Translation: the permanent, irreversible mutilation of a mentally ill child's body. There's no such thing as gender-affirming healthcare. There is only the mutilation of a child's body while that child suffers from a deep mental delusion. Now, continue on. Or whitewash public school curriculum in the name of protecting children. They refuse to take meaningful steps to reduce the leading cause of death in America, gun violence. The actual cause is spiritual. Every time we see someone take as many lives as possible for taking his or her own life, we're seeing the exact spirit of Satan at work that was at work in Scripture. We're seeing somebody who is possessed by evil itself. We're actually seeing the very evil that we are hoping to curtail with exactly that legislation. So what the LA Times refers to as a red herring, as a distraction from the actual cause, are attempts to mitigate the onslaught of the very depravity and the very evil that led to this. The Seattle Times got it wrong. The Associated Press got it right, and then they made the right wrong, and we all observed it. Hopefully, we'll be able to tune in next time with a more hopeful update.